Hola year 10s, we're continuing with our media topic, and today in particular we are looking at la red, which is another word for el internet. Okay, so both of those mean the internet. So we put today's title, and then you're working in casa, and if you're doing the lesson up to date, then it is martes el 2 de febrero today, so you can put the date that you're doing this. Okay, continuamos. So first of all, just going to have a little recap of some vocabulary and introduce us to one or two new words. All you need to do is write down A to E. You can write the Spanish words as well if you want to remind yourself of some spellings, but you don't have to. Just write A to E and then see if you can work out the pictures. They're numbered like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or you can just verbally do it. Just pause the video and check what is the Spanish for each of these things, okay? Okay, so if you've just done it verbally, that's fine. If you just had a quick look, if you've written them down, that's fine too. So this is E, un reproductor de MP3, an MP3 player, so like an iPod or something. Now, obviously, a lot of us play music from our phones these days, but there are still iPods and things around like that, okay? And then this then obviously is la televisión vía satélite. Okay, so that word there, it's not pronounced satellite. Remember in Spanish, you've got to pronounce every letter, separately. So this is satélite. So let's try that one. La televisión vía satélite. Okay. Then we have un móvil, of course, and un portátil. The other way around, sorry. Okay, un portátil and then un móvil. So let's try those. Un portátil, un móvil. And then finally, los sitios de redes sociales means sites of social network. Okay, so social networking sites, because we put adjectives after. Well, this is not an adjective, it's two nouns. And like we know, we can't have two nouns together, so we have to say sites of social network rather than social network sites. Okay, los sitios de redes sociales. Try that one. And again, los sitios de redes sociales. Okay, continuamos. So what I want you to do is just write down what you think the word, or just have a think of what you think the word para means in your book. Pause or have a think about it, and then continue. Okay, so if you wrote down that para means for, then you are correct, okay? It does mean for. I can say, did you get that for me, para mí? But it has another meaning, okay? So if I asked you, ¿para qué usas el internet? I'm asking you for what you use the internet. Remember, they don't have the question with do in Spanish. So we just say, for what use you the internet? What do you use the internet for? And then if I answered with something like this, I'm using the word para, but it's not being translated as for in this case, okay? What I'd like you to do first of all is to translate for me the words in bold, okay? So first of all, it's pretty much everything that is not the word para, okay? So pause the video and see how many of these from last week or previous topics that you can remember. The first one you might not know, okay? Okay, so what do you notice about all the words that are following the word para here? I'll give you a clue. Let's look at the ends of the words. What are all of these words here? Good, they are infinitive verbs, aren't they? They are whole. Okay, so para here is followed by the infinitive. So when we say para, it means for, okay? If we are saying para aprender, does that mean we're saying for to learn, for to study? So if I ask you what do you use the internet for, ¿para qué usas el internet? And you said para aprender, does that mean you're saying for to learn? That wouldn't make sense, would it? So para plus the infinitive means in order to learn. Okay, I suppose it could be also translated as for learning, but para, when you have before the infinitive, has that meaning of it. You're doing in order to do something. Okay, so for example, if you were saying, why did you go to town last weekend? And you wanted to say to buy a present. You wouldn't just say comprar un regalo, because you're conveying the meaning of it was in order to do something. We have to use the para before the infinitive, because although aprender means to learn, if I ask you para qué usas el internet, if you just answered with to learn, aprender, yes, that technically does mean to learn, but it doesn't convey the sense that you use the internet in order to learn. Okay, so you can't have an infinitive on its own if you want to mean in order to. We have to have that word para before it. So can you please write that down? If you've got your little books with you, then you could write it in your grammar book and say para plus the infinitive equals in order to, make it stand out with highlighters, whatever it is, because we obviously use this in several topics. Okay. If you haven't got your little book, sorry, I should have said, then just write it in your book or your notes or somewhere, okay? Perhaps you could put it on a sticky note as well and stick it somewhere in your room for the next couple of weeks so that it really sticks, okay? Right, continuamos. Let's continue. So let's look at another example then. If I ask you, ¿para qué usas el internet? What do you use the internet for? Or ¿para qué usas tu móvil? What do you use your mobile for? And then you said para chatear con mis amigos. You're saying to chat with my friends, okay? Obviously, if it was past, we might say something like compró. I bought a present for my mum, okay? And then this here, we're using para. So that's the two meanings of para: in order to, once with the infinitive, and just for, as in for somebody, if it's not followed by an infinitive, okay? Okay. One other way we could answer this to get our grades higher is, rather than just starting with in order to, so what do you use the internet for? If you just jumped in straight with in order to, that's okay. But using this little word lo before uso would really bring it up to an A or B grade answer. So uso ends in O, doesn't it? So what kind of person is that there? I. So I use. So what do you think lo might mean? It means it. Okay, now it sounds strange to us to put it first, but they always do that. They put what's called the pronoun or the subject, whether it's the subject pronoun or not, before the verb. Okay, so lo uso, it I use, in order to, or for whatever it is. Okay, so lo uso para comprender, whatever it is. Okay. So, make a little note of that as well, I should have said. So you could put that with your para work, but you could also put it in your internet work, so you know to use it in this context too. Okay. Let's have a little look at a foundation level reading activity, first of all, and then we're going to look at a more higher level reading activity about the way people use the internet. So lots of the vocabulary we're looking at today, we saw last week about things like downloading music, sending emails. So we're recapping that, but it's just in the context today of internet, okay? So what I want you to do is leer, is read these texts, just skim read them, pause the video, and just take a little time. Don't look anything up. Just get to grips with what you remember. You could look back at work. So from last week, if you see descargo la música and you can't remember descargo, look back at last week, but please don't look anything up in the dictionary yet, okay? Okay, so you should have a rough idea now of what is included in each text. So let's have a look at the activity. What you're going to do is, for each of these people, there are 3 sentences that are incomplete. You're going to termina las frases en inglés. Finish the sentences in English, okay? So all you need to do is write 1 to 6, 1 to 6, or you can write Maria 1 to 3 and then Juan 1 to 3. I don't mind either way. Oops. And then you're going to fill in your answers in English. So it's easier doing research. Maria says, it's easier doing research for her homework on. You would read, they go in order of the text and fill in the English. You don't need to answer in full sentences. Okay, just write the bit that's missing. Okay, so if you've unpaused, it means you're ready to check these in a different colour. So let's have a look. The first one is the internet. She says, the internet is very useful for doing homework. It's more easy to do an investigation on the web. So you might have also put on the web, that's fine too, it's the same thing, isn't it? Okay. She downloads music because it's quicker and something than CDs. So also I descargo la música, music on my iPod because it's more quick. Remember last week we looked at comparisons that you can't say quicker, we have to say more before it. Y menos caro que los CDs. So it's this menos caro part here. So what does menos mean? Opposite of más, it is less. We saw that last week. Hopefully you remember caro from other topics that we've done, but if not, use some logic here. Why might somebody download music instead of buying the physical? Because it'd be less expensive, okay? So caro means expensive. So in other words, you could have put cheaper. That's the same thing, isn't it? Okay. Number 3, she doesn't like sending emails. It's simpler too. So she says, no me gusta enviar los correos electrónicos. Es más fácil, it's more easy, llamar por móvil. So if you're not sure what llamar is, you might have noticed in this text, it talks about enviar textos por móvil. So that's something else you can do in a móvil. So it's not sending texts. What other way would you use? Could you communicate on a phone? Obviously calling, okay? So llamar is to call. You've seen llamar. In llamarse, I am called is me llamo. In other words, I call myself, okay? Okay, Juan. Juan says the internet is better than. So, paso todas las noches en el internet. En mi opinión, es mejor, so there's a word better we revised last week, que la televisión, than the TV. He chats online because it's cheaper than. Chateo con mis amigos y envío los correos electrónicos. Cuesta menos, there's that word less, que enviar textos por móvil. So it costs less than sending text on his phone. Okay. Finally, he doesn't download music. No descargo la música. He prefers something because it's less complicated. Prefiero comprar los CD porque es menos complicado. So what would you be doing with CDs? What is the verb comprar? To buy. Good. Okay. Fantastico. So correct your sentences. Continuamos. Let's continue. So now we're looking at a more higher grade text, and this one is in a Word document for you in the Moodle on the Study Zone page. Okay. The first thing you're going to do is either on the computer, get the highlighter, or if you've printed this, you can do it on paper, is highlight any of the para plus the infinitive phrases. There aren't that many. Okay, well, let's just find them first of all. So pause the video and find the para plus the infinitives that are coming after. Okay. Okay, so here we go. Here's the first. I use the internet para trabajar y estudiar, to work and study. Also, lo usé, so that's the past here, para chatear, to chat. Now I've highlighted this mandar here, because although it hasn't got para, it is linked to this para. Para chatear, in order to chat on Facebook and to send emails. So it's linked to that para, okay? And then the final one, I use the internet to buy, para comprar cosas, to buy things, okay? So task 1 that you're going to do with this, and you need to do task 1 before you do task 2, because it will help you with task 2, is find the Spanish phrases in the text. So find all of these in the text, because some of them will help you answer. If there's anything you're struggling with on here, you could come to some of the questions, because that might help you with part of this. They can go hand in hand and help you with both, okay? Because in this part here, it tells me that she says somewhere in the text what you must do online. She says somewhere in the text what's the bad thing about her internet use. So that would give me a clue about maybe where the phrase the bad thing is that, okay? These all go in order of the text except for 5 and 6, okay? So 6 actually comes before 5. This is a higher level text in comparison to the other one, so do your best, okay? If you need to look something up, then make sure you make a note of what it means to help you learn that word, okay? And when you're ready to unpause, we'll check them. Okay, so well done for however many you found, because like I said, this is a higher level text, okay? And you're on your own at home, you can't stop and ask me questions about things. So the good thing is that, and the bad thing is that, we've actually done those before. Okay, so hopefully you remember doing those when we were talking about town, and you found the lo bueno and the lo malo. I really want you to use these in your writing today. Okay, to stay is mantenerme. We're talking about staying in contact here rather than staying somewhere. Okay. To work, trabajar, hopefully you know that. I spend, not as in money, but time is the verb. Pasar is to spend, so paso, I spend. It costs, we saw in the previous text, cuesta. Acceder looks like the English, and we know it's infinitive because it ends in an E, so to access. We've learnt this today, lo uso, I use it. Mirar is to look at. Tener cuidado, be careful. And strangers are desconocidos. So now you've found all of those that might help you with answering any questions you still have not answered. So pause the video again if you need a bit longer, and when you're ready, come back to check your answers. Okay? Okay, so what does she use the internet for? She says to work and study. That was our first paraphrase in the first line. How often does she use it and why? So she uses it every day because it's easy to access. Okay, then there's a little bit of a jump to question 3. So if you're struggling with finding the answer to question 3, move on a couple of lines. Look for the verb. So if I'm trying to find this answer about buying things, obviously I need to look for verbs like comprar, to buy, okay, or going shopping, ir de compras, that sort of thing. Look at words linked to that topic. So if you need a bit longer, pause. When you're ready, let's check that answer. So it's false. She does like to buy things, and her reason is because it's cheaper, okay? Cheaper than going to the shop she talks about. She says then later on what you must do, and it's this phrase here, tener cuidado, take care. And it's because there is a lot of fraud. She talks about fraude, it's got the E on the end in Spanish, and she mentions there being strangers on Facebook, okay? And then finally, what is the bad thing about her internet use? And it says it costs a lot. So on her phone, it's costing her a lot. Cuesta mucho, okay? Right, the next activity you're going to do with this is create yourself 2 columns in your book, or you could do it on the back of the worksheet, or just on the add another page in the worksheet and create a table. Find in the text 5 advantages and 5 disadvantages. I'd like you to note them in English in your tables, but it will be really useful for you if you note down the Spanish as well, because that way when you come to do some writing later on and when you're revising for the exam next year, you've got a list of advantages and you have a list of disadvantages ready for you to learn that link to the internet, okay? So pause the video, take as long as you need to find 5 of each. Okay, so these are the advantages you might have found, okay? And these are the disadvantages. So now that I've shown you what they are, make sure you go back and aware of the vocabulary linked to all of these, okay? So just working back here, we had the word these desconocidos in our last activity. Fraud is fraude. So this person spends too much time on the internet, but if you want to say that I spend, be paso demasiado tiempo en el internet, or you could say people spend, la gente pasa. So if you're talking about people, la gente pasa, P-A-S-A, people spend. I spend would be paso, okay? It costs a lot of money, we saw in the text, cuesta mucho. They don't bother with the word dinero because when you're saying it costs a lot, it's obviously talking about money, okay? And then chatting on, now it might be that you don't use Facebook, this text said Facebook, but it might be that you are chatting on a different social media. So chatear is the verb to chat, okay? Right, over here then, es más, so it is more barato, it's more cheap, or you could also say less expensive, it's menos caro, okay? Than, remember, is que, that we did last week. It's menos caro que las tiendas. You can stay in contact, so I stay in contact, we should use that mantenerme en contacto. If we were saying like you can, we could use that se puede that we've seen before. Se puede mantenerse en contacto, okay? And then this part obviously is a disadvantage if you're talking to strangers, but it can be an advantage chatting online if you're talking to friends. Okay, it's the same verb there. Fácil acceder was in the second line, and the work and study was in the first line. Trabajar y estudiar. Okay. If you have any questions about any of that, then just put it in Teams to me or send me an email. Okay. Okay, so we're just going to build up our vocabulary for writing about internet in one other activity. So you have this text as well, this Word document on the Study Zone page. What you're going to do is for each of these boxes decide if it is something that is good about the internet or something that describes it as the internet in a bad way. Okay, if you can work out what they all mean, then excellent, but you're going to need to have a gist idea of what they all mean in order to decide if they're negative or positive, isn't it? Okay, so do as many of them as you can. You might find one or two of them more difficult. You might think the longer ones are going to be more difficult, but if we say come over here, I can see the word adicta in here, which looks like the English word addict. Okay, so even if you don't really recognize the rest, it should give you a clue. I can see the word mucho dinero in here, confuso on the word abuela. Okay, so just one bit of vocabulary to let you know, or remind you rather. Anytime you're seeing puede, that is the word can. So puedes, you can. Puede, it can be. Puede ser. My dad can. Puede, I can. Puedo, because it's the I verb. Se puede, you can. In general, one can. Okay, so just remember that puede part there, the can, to help you with some of those. So do as many as you can, highlight them, and when you are ready to continue, then let me know. Oh, carry on rather with the video, okay? Okay, so I'm going to show you now the positives and negatives and just go over a bit of vocabulary. So that anything you weren't sure of what it means, then write them down. Obviously, I'm not going to stop and give you long enough to write them. So you pause after I say each one if there's any notes you want to make, okay? Okay, so all of the red are things that are negativo, negative, and all of the sort of slightly green colour are all of the things that are positivo, okay? So, creo que es importante, I believe it's important. Pause if you need to write any translation there. Let's go down. Es útil, it's useful. It can be peligroso, dangerous. It can be dangerous for young people because a lot of people miente. You wouldn't know this verb, it means lie in chats. Okay, you might have guessed what it means by logically guessing what could fit there. Okay, I cannot here, no puedo vivir. I cannot live without the internet. That's an important phrase there, that word sin. Okay, so make sure you've made a note of that. Because you might want to say something like, I can't live without my mobile, or I can't live without my laptop, whatever it is, okay? Es muy práctico, it's very practical. Me ayuda con mis deberes, it helps me with my homework. Then up here, the top then, puedes hablar, you can talk, con tus amigos, with your friends, cuando quieras, when you want. Okay? So quieras is you want. Puedo mantenerme en contacto. So that's an important one for you might want to use later on. I can stay or maintain myself basically in contact with family who live in the United States. That might be different for you. I can stay in contact with my family that I'm not allowed to see because of COVID. Okay, we could potentially put that, or just maybe you've got family who live far away. Okay, I prefer to download music in an illegal way than going to shops and spending money on a CD. Okay, so although that is giving you a good thing about the internet, sorry, not environment, that's obviously a negative thing for the because it's illegal. My dad can read the news. Las noticias, we did remember in our TV topic. Ha creado muchos nuevos empleos. Now, this is a tense we have not yet covered. It means it has created lots of new jobs. So that might have been a bit trickier, especially as empleos comes from a different topic. Now, I still included that there because it's important for you to see that although there's words here we haven't covered. In every single exam question you will get, there will always be one or two crossovers. So we need to make sure we are familiar with vocabulary from every topic and that we're capable of seeing it out of context, okay? Okay, up here then, you can listen to music on YouTube. I can watch my favorite films on Netflix, okay? I can talk via Skype, or we can replace that with Zoom, with my friend who lives in France. Hay mucho que ver y hacer. There is lots to see and do. Sending a message on the internet is a lot more quick than sending an email, okay? So this is something that is good about the internet on your phone, but bad about the like emails, okay? That's why I've read that one red. You can learn, so I'm in the internet, like as in social media, okay? You can learn about new things, cosas nuevas, okay? My parents have to. So whenever we have tener with que, it means have to. My parents have to spend lots of money. They say it's very expensive. So a lot of vocabulary there that you might not have been sure of, but maybe you recognize the dinero and the caro, and that was enough to know it was negative, okay? My grandma says that it's confusing. Maybe you have older relatives that find it the same, trying to get them to connect over Zoom and things, so they can see you. Not always easy. Okay, people are addicts. La gente es adicta. People is addict, is what it literally says, but because la gente is a single noun, we have to say is. People is addicted to the internet. They use it, lo utiliza, almost 20 the 24 hours of the day. Okay, the 24 hours of the day, that part there. People don't relax, no descansa, don't relax. They don't, or like it's a way to say like switch off. They don't like entertain themselves, no se diverte, enjoy themselves, and they never relax. That's another way to say relax rather than like switch off. No se relajan nunca. Okay, they never. Buying on the internet, or in other words, shopping online, is very cheap and easy. With social networks, people only relate, so like meet up virtually. People every time go out less from the house. So when we use cada vez, we're saying every time, in other words, more and more. Okay, so I'll say that part again. With social networks, people only like relate to each other virtually. People are more and more leaving less from the house. Now, obviously, it's very different for us at the moment because we're not actually allowed. Okay. My dad thinks that it's a waste of time, or loss of time is what this literally means. Okay? Okay, fantastico. So make sure you've made a note of all the vocabulary there, because you're going to use a lot of these to talk now about your answers to the internet. So what I want you to do is prepare answers to the following questions. ¿Usas el internet? ¿Qué haces en el internet? ¿Crees que los jóvenes son adictos al internet? And en tu opinión, ¿qué son las ventajas y las desventajas del internet? I could say cuáles son. Okay? Doesn't really matter whether or not we're preparing for writing or speaking here, because the same answers would be used in both places, but obviously we need to know what the questions mean. So have a pause and have a think about what these questions mean, okay? You might want to write down the Spanish translation and the English now if you aren't sure of what some of them mean. Okay, so let's look at the first one. Usas, we've got the verb to use, and we've got the S ending, so therefore you use the internet. It's a nice simple question. Do you use the internet? Then we have what. Remember, this means you do. What you do on the internet. In other words, what do you do on the internet? Okay. ¿Crees que? Do you think that? Los jóvenes. Young people are addicts to the internet, are addicted to the internet. In your opinion, ¿qué son? What are the advantages and disadvantages of the internet? We've gone over loads today, so hopefully you can use all of those to help you today. Okay, so once you've got those questions there in the Spanish and the English, let's have a look at answering these, okay? So just some ideas to help you with your answers. So the first one, we all use the internet. So you're going to say, yes, sí, uso el internet. Yes, I use the internet. And then say how often, because the next one is what you do on the internet. So here you could be very useful to say something like how often you use it or where you use it. Okay, so just extend with something like that. Uso el internet cada día, every day, cada noche, almost every 24 hours, like you've seen in some of those texts, that sort of thing. Okay, on the internet, en el internet, normally, or every day, we can change our verb frequency words here. So make sure you're using some frequency words like normally, every day, all the time. Normally, I chat, whatever it is. Okay, so go back to last week. We've got lots of vocabulary on whether or not you use it for shopping, for research, for doing homework. Look at some of the texts we've looked at today and write a little bit about how you use the internet. Okay. Then this one was about whether or not you think young people are addicts, okay? So you're either going to say sí or no, and then you might start with something like, in my opinion, or I believe that. Now, obviously, this is your opinion over whether or not you believe it is that people are addicted, but we'll use the question to help us write the answer. So let's flick back here. So I would switch this to creo que, I believe that young people are addicts to the internet, are addicted to the internet. So creo que los jóvenes son adictos al internet porque, because, and then explain why. Okay, so it might be that because, and we can come back to this grid up here, they use it every 24 hours a day. They don't relax, whatever it is. Or this one here, with social networks, you're not connecting with people. So use some of these as reasons why, okay? And then finally, what are the advantages and disadvantages? So we've got lots in the text that we saw from Penelope. You've got different ones in the grid above. So you pull out the ones that you think, just a couple for each. So for me, the advantages are. On the other hand, the disadvantages are. Okay, and as you're working, think about the name Laura. Now it's spelt wrong here, but that's because it fits what we need to remember. So this is how you'll be marked on the length. So have you literally just said, on the internet, normally I chat with my friends? Or have you given more detail? What do you use to chat with your friends? How often? Why do you do that? And so on, okay? Have you given plenty of opinions and reasons? So for each answer, maybe not necessarily the first one, you don't necessarily need an opinion there. Have you given an opinion, and have you justified that opinion with a reason? Okay. Then finally, in speaking, you'll be marked on your accent, of course, and also then on your accuracy. Okay. And by accuracy, we mean mistakes in like verbs and that sort of thing. Okay. So before you write your answers, I just want to go over some common mistakes that I'm seeing or often see with writing, okay? Now, it's perfectly normal when you're writing in Spanish to forget a certain word or phrase. And at your stage of the language, that's normal to make mistakes when you're actually looking for something in the dictionary, okay? So what we often see is, say for example, you were writing about your birthday and the presents that you had, and you wanted to say you had a new watch, but you'd forgotten or you've never come across the word watch in Spanish, okay? So you go to look it up in the dictionary, and then you come up with this sentence. Para mi cumpleaños, for my birthday, I had mirar de mi madre. Look at this word mirar. What do you think this person has done wrong? So well done, if you notice that mirar means to watch because it has the AR ending, okay? So as in like to watch a film or something. So you've got to be really careful because in a dictionary there will be different options for a verb. So I've seen it before on Google Translate where somebody has put in the word can because they want to say I can, and the Google Translate comes up with the word lata, which is a drink can. Okay, so they've used the wrong word there for can. So you must be careful which word it's. The word for watch is un reloj, but we've got to be really careful which word we are using. Okay? So bear in mind then when you're looking at words or when you're writing that if your verb has AR, ER or IR on it, these endings can technically be translated to, so not giving the whole verb. So please make sure you're only using the infinitive if you want it to mean to something in your sentence. Don't say things like I chat on the internet by saying hablar por internet, because that means to talk, not I talk. Okay? Okay, another common error in writing then that I see is, like I just said, you want to talk about what you do on the internet, and you might say something like, normally in the evening, por la noche, chatear con mis amigos. So what has this person done? Okay, they have said to chat with my friends. They've forgotten the ending. So in this case, it would be O because it's I. So try and include some other people in your writing. So you might say something like, I use the internet for something, but my dad uses it for something else. So rather than uso, or my dad chats with his work via Zoom at the moment or something, rather than chateo, it'd be chatea. Okay, so making sure you get the right ending there by you talking about other people. Okay, so make sure you've read over your answers properly before you submit them to me. So I'll leave the questions and the sentence starters there. So this is the main thing that I need to see from today's lesson. I obviously like to see everything that you've done usually, just so I can see roughly your understanding and how you're getting on. But it's really important for me to see these, the writing now. And what you could also do as an extension task, if you have the time or you'd like, is to record your answers and send them to me so that I can check your pronunciation, okay? So after this, we're going to do either virtually or I will set up a Kahoot for you to do. And there's going to be an extension reading sheet as well. There was a lot of content here because we have a triple today. So do your best. I know obviously our lessons now have been shortened to 50 minutes. You're more than welcome, of course, to carry on. Nobody is stopping you if you want to, but make sure you're taking that time if you need between the lessons, just to have that breather away from the screen. Okay, stretch your legs and things, but it does mean we are losing half an hour from our triple. So I will bear that in mind with how much work you're managing to get done, and some of you may be still catching up from previous lessons. That is totally okay. I'd rather set too much for you that some of you can then use as extension tasks, or then set too little and we fall behind. Okay, so muy bien, excellent, carrying on working from home, year 10, and let me know if you need anything in the chat. Fantastico.